Thank you. Yeah, good morning. Thank you for having us at BitCom, opening the stage for AI in Action. We're super excited to tell you a bit about what we've been working on in the last couple of months. Who's Black Benjamin from bakdata.
Hello.
My name is Simon from KMS TEAM, which is one of the leading brand consultancies in Germany. And together, we've been working on a project called the Regular Brand. And the regular, thank you. Wasn't expecting that. And can we switch to the presentation, please? Thank you. And what it is, in a nutshell, is this. If it's working.
Brands, they're supposed to stand out, and yet scroll through the internet and it's like the Matrix glitched. Same looks, same promise, same inspirational taglines? Sure. Brand builders guess what sets them apart, yet no one has the right data. That's why we built the Regular Brand and let AI do the dirty work. We are changing the game by scraping thousands of websites, hundreds of brands side by side, fonts, colours, imagery, logos, brand values. With AI-powered data analysis, we reconstruct brand identities based on facts, not assumptions. By quantifying similarities, we reveal the most common brand codes used by the key players in the market. In short, we paint a clear picture of the industry, or even shorter, the regular brand. Because fitting in is easy, but standing out, that's where things get interesting. Gain an in-depth perspective on how brands align with industry standards, spot the differences, and find out how close your brand drifts toward the regular, so you can make data-based decisions that make your brand irregular by choice. The Regular Brand. Are you ready to decode your industry?
Yeah, that's it in a nutshell, basically. And what we did with it and what we concretely had in some certain use cases together with Zeiss, we're going to show you right now, if the clicker is working. Okay, so what the Regular Brand is basically a big data analysis platform that enables decision takers of branding and communication industry understand where the norm is in a certain industry regarding visual patterns and communication patterns and profiles. So this is a quick view in the platform, like what it does, and this is the project stage, more or less, where we were working on with the top 25 companies in 5 industries to understand what makes the leading companies in certain industries stand out and get similar. And one important aspect is what we call the self-image, is more or less like how do companies literally in writing describe themselves in their communication, and how do they bring across their communication profile. And this is what we did with, together with Zeiss and the 3 use cases we're going to show today. Now, why does it matter? Brands are complex, and brand building is a complex thing. It's basically, what do we want to stand for as a company, and what is our growth ambition, and how do we bring it across to our stakeholders and generate value and impact? Sounds easy. The thing is that all different layers in creating strong brands require certain decisions and involvement of certain perspectives, views, stakeholders, creations, and what have you. So measuring and understanding brand impact already within the company is quite a hassle. At least this is what we found out, also together with Martin from Zeiss. In other words, it means while at the beginning there is a small stakeholder group involved when creating a brand, it turns out that at the end, in the markets and in the environments, it's easy over a few million perspective, viewpoints, artifacts that you have to look at and that you have to analyze. And that makes it a pinpoint application for big data. Regular Brand is meant to be for decision takers to get clarity and controlling about the accuracy of brand implementation and realization. It's for benchmarking and also for exploring certain industries and find out where are the points in the market where we are able to stand out through visual and communication patterns. What we did with Zeiss is basically a first case study, and we are in the moment in a process of looking for use cases. So everyone who's interested, very welcome to get in contact. Zeiss, as maybe many of you know, is a global technology company from Germany, a multi-category company from Germany. Multi-category means Zeiss is operating a single brand strategy for all their offering portfolio, which is a very wide array of offering, coming from advanced optics or from optics onto digital solutions and digital products at the very end. So the challenges for Zeiss brand management are very clear. It means like leading the brand in different industries and different markets, not only in terms of domains, but also in terms of global regions, make the brand global relevant for top talent globally, and monitor and enable powerful brand execution within the company. And this was the first thing that we were looking into. Understand the accuracy of application and understand how precise we bring across what we want to bring across as a brand within the company, and how to look at and how to enable for better feedback inside the company. What we had as a reference input was basically the definition, like the written definition of the Zeiss brand, so-called the narrative and the brand experience principles that has to come across in a communication profile. So we created basically this dashboard of the regular brand together with Zeiss, and what we want to focus on today is the self-image and the use cases for the self-image. Those are the 5 attributes that are written down in the Zeiss brand definition, and they want to bring across in communication. And what we can examine now with regular brand is by analyzing the communication environment of Zeiss themselves. How is the profile actually in written language, and how do they bring across their certain brand identities and brand values in general, but also in different use cases that are really interesting for the brand management and brand leadership, which is the difference or the consistency between units, the consistency between locations or employer and business profile in communication. And it turned out that having a view on different perspectives and on different things, the profiles are very varied. And now the idea is not that it has to be consistent overall, but the learnings that we get together with Zeiss are pretty striking, that we now know where to look in and how to enable teams very concretely, either in the communication hubs globally, but also in communication hubs in certain business units to improve the image that we want to bring across. So this is, for example, the difference between China and the global reference. Or this is the difference between a business unit and the employer brand. And this is a very significant, a different profile that is coming across that we thought about, okay, now we very much know where to look into in our communications in order to get improvements, or in order to maybe reset the reference profile of the brand identity itself. So there are pretty concrete action items for Zeiss brand management that we found out, which is the first thing. We are now able to define a reference profile after all, so what we want to bring across and how intense we want to bring certain attributes across. We are able to action towards global market execution. We can understand now, is it necessary to have a certain global inconsistency or not? There is a plausibility towards it, but maybe. We enable precise feedback, and we can further examine the applicability and training of certain values internally in order to understand better that brand management is doing it right or maybe doing it wrong. So we are able to raise the precision of feedback internally at Zeiss. And this was based on the regular brand that we set up, and how it works is Benjamin's task. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So I want to make a small technical deep dive into how we did all this. So what's interesting about our data is that the data that we used for Zeiss and also for all other companies is that we're using open data, which means websites. So every company has a website, and we built a generic scraper which looked at the websites, scrolled the text, scrolled the images, the videos, but also style information like what is the font size, what is the font family, etc. Of course, we are adhering to certain rules, so don't crawl anything that the companies do not want to be crawled, and don't crawl too much and too fast. But now we have all our data in here. Now, to make it a really simplified look, this is the data platform, so we have all these kinds of data, and then we have our machine learning model, which can do certain tasks, and then we have our results. Of course, not every analysis should be used by a machine learning model, so sometimes it's better, it's faster, cheaper, more consistent to use a traditional approach. But for text analysis, for example, for the size values, that's a perfect fit. But now we need to find a prompt. So when we're using ChatGPT and want to get some results, we need to find a good prompt. And prompting is really hard. Yeah. So it's always an iterative process. So we define our task, and we want to find out what value size is using. And then we build our prompt, we test it and evaluate it, and then we find out, the definition of the machine learning model for inspiring is slightly different than of the definition that Zeiss wants to use. So we need to go back to the drawing board, try it out again, and test and test and test. And this can take a really long, long time to really get the best results that we want to have. An example prompt, so I will not explain everything which stand there, but just for reference, we always start with the system message, which explains what we want to do. So we're setting the context, okay, this is not a task of the machine learning model. Then we have different instructions, and it's always best to get a consistent result. If you do first do this, then do this, then do this. And in here, the first thing would be to read the text. And then we need to define how the machine learning model should classify the value. So if it's just a single word in the text, does it then adhere to the class, or do we want that the primary message and the core theme really have a strong alignment to that particular class, and we want to have multiple occurrences inside the text? And that's really important, because if we don't do this, then the machine learning model thinks for itself what could be the right thing to do, and then we have different or wrong results. And in the end, we of course have our class definitions. In this case, I'm only showing a little bit of leading and of inspiring. And because it's text that we are analyzing, it's important to tell the model that it needs to look at the text and at specific words or verbs. For example, in leading, on the bottom you can see that the modality and tone should be active, and we should use decisive verbs. So we need always to think about what do we analyzing, and in this case, this is text from a website. Now we have our prompt, and we find out that, yes, if we're using the same prompt for the same website multiple times, then we may get different results. And this is because models are non-deterministic by default. Determinism means that if you have the same input, the result should also be the same. But if you're using ChatGPT, for example, and you're writing the same questions multiple times, the result would always be slightly different. And this is a problem because, as you can see here, if we have bad luck, then the text says, the model says the text is not leading, but in all other cases, the text should be leading. So we really need to think on that iterative process to make the review as hard as possible to get the best result. And also there's some other techniques like doing it multiple times, as you can see here, and then use log props or majority vote to really find the right result. And in this case, you can see it's quite clear the text should be leading and not leading, because most of the time the model says it is like this. If you put everything together, we have our classification tasks in here. We also need to think about what model do we want to use. On the right side, you see multiple models like the Alama or the Quen model, and the Alama is an English model, and the Quen model is a Chinese model. So it's always important to think about what do you want to do. If we have, for the Zeiss use case, we have also the Chinese websites. Maybe for the Chinese websites, we should use another model. Most of the time, all models can do everything, but on a different degree of quality. So and then we have the same iterative process that we're doing here with the tasks. We have the different models, and then we probably need to also revise the prompt based on the different model. And for us, it's quite easy because we host and deploy everything on ourselves on Kubernetes, and we can switch the model in this case. Okay, so now we have everything. We have the regular brand website, and everything there is published openly. But of course, we're doing a lot of more analysis, and not everything is public that we use. So we can integrate the different analysis or BI platforms, like in this example, Power BI. So yeah, we can do the custom integrations and input everything in there, because it's always easier to use the tools that you're always using. Yeah, that's for the technical deep dive, and I will give back to you.
Thanks for catching up. This is basically the quick report on like what we did with regular brand in general, and with together with the size team, in order to create valuable first ideas of how to measure the complexity of brand profile in communication with a tool. And our perspective for the regular brand is, first of all, expansion. We want to connect new sources. That's why we are also looking for collaborations with companies to not only connect public information, but also connect other data sources in order to make the analysis richer, because like for branding, it's super important to not only have through the communication department distributed communication profile, but also, for example, customer feedback, live recensions, what have you. So this would be a super interesting part of it. Also, social is obviously super interesting for global markets. Not only the website written is the most important touch point. We know that. We're working on this. Deepening means new modules. That mean looking into language style and tonality. We're living in a time where we are faced with complexity, and that means reduction and simplification of communication standards is very important. So language concepts will be interesting. And what Benjamin already told you is real-time insights, like making it as a service tool, integration in corporate reporting environments. Those are the facts. Also, real-time in terms of monitoring campaigns in communication, for example, could be also an interesting module that we're looking into. And thanks again for catching up my delay. We're looking forward to your feedback. Thanks for visiting the session. So we're happy that it's crowded, and we're looking forward to what you have to offer and questions for you. Thank you.